right, people are starting to come in. Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome. We are back for another really fun night of conversation. Hi, everyone. Hey, Delcy. Hey, guys. I see you all coming in. Super exciting. We have an amazing guest today that I could not be more thrilled about. He will be joining us any minute. You probably saw me tease it up on my social media. It's Mr. Bobby Berk from Queer Eye, and he has a lot of really great things to say, and I can't wait to dive in and talk to him. Hi, everybody. Hey, John. Hey, Broadway Daily. Hey, Unlimited Jason. What's up, guys? Thank you for joining. Happy to have you here. Hello, hello. Hey, Kristen. Hey, Raj. Awesome. I'm glad we have a little fun party getting started. Let me make sure I haven't missed Bobby's join invitation. All right. So like I said, Bobby is going to be in any minute. We're going to have a great conversation today. I think that we're living in this crazy time, as I said, ton of anxiety, ton of stress. So the point of these conversations, there you are, Bobby. I see you coming. Requests. Dun, dun, dun. All right, stand by, you guys. So excited to see Bobby. Yes, he's going to be amazing. Hey, Scott, Atlanta. Happy that you're joining.
Hey, how's it
Hey,
going?
Bobby. What's up?
Not too much. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
Good. Thank you for joining. I was just telling everybody, it looks all peaceful and zen where you are right now.
Yeah. Benefit of being in Texas, I guess, eh?
There we go. Thank you for joining. I am so psyched to have you on here today. I know a lot of people are excited to hear what you have to say. And I was just saying, we're in a time of crazy anxiety, crazy stress, a lot going on right now in the world. And the point of this is just to give people an hour of inspiration and hope. And when I think of people that can do that, it's definitely you. So I'm excited to dive in. And especially because, we were talking about the GLAAD Media Awards were canceled in New York, and the April one is moved through the fall, hopefully. And for me, that's such a big part of the community. It's such an important way to shed light on people doing amazing things, right? Telling great stories, being really influential in media. And I don't want that to die just because the awards have died out.
Right.
So I'm really excited to bring you as a trailblazer to everyone today to kind of keep that conversation going. So we have a ton of comments already, which are great. So I'm gonna keep my eye on those throughout so we can talk to people.
I always find the comments impossible to keep up with on these lives.
They go so fast. I'm like, come on. But I have my eye out, so don't you worry.
Okay.
But, so let's dive in. I want to know a little bit more about your backstory first. So I know that you grew up gay in a conservative town in Missouri, and you didn't feel like you were able to come out. You didn't feel like that was the environment that it could happen. And I know a lot of people who follow me are from small towns. I have the luxury of living in a big city, but that's not the reality for most. And they feel like, from what I can see, they never will have that opportunity to come out or be who they are. And being somebody who grew up like that and in that environment, what do you say to give hope to so many people who might be going through the same exact thing?
I think it might sound a bit cliche to say, but it really does get better. We're in high school and we think that this is the most important times in our lives. And this is the only thing that matters. But what people really need to realize, especially those in high school and middle school who are going through not being able to come out, that high school and middle school is such a small little blink of an eye of your life. And although it might be hard, you're going to be able to go somewhere that loves and accepts you, where you can be yourself. And hopefully, in the near future and more in the future, every place will be like that. But just keep reminding yourself, it's only for a few years. And you can move to New York or LA or any other big city that has more open-minded people. Also, a really great way to kind of get through it is, for me, looking back, all the people that were like super popular and like gave me hell, they all have like 15 kids and live in a double wide trailer now, which nothing against that, but just to kind of say they're still in that little town, and haven't really done anything in their lives. Like high school, they peaked in high school. Right. And a lot of times those people that are super popular and everything, that's really where they peak. us gay folk, like we peak when we're older because for the not every all of us are super creative, but for the most part, we have a creative soul. You know, we love giving, and so I think as we get older, we flourish and we blossom even more. So. Getting through high school and middle school can be hard, but keep in mind it's such a small time in your life, and everything after that is going to be so, so much better.
I love that. I think that's something that a lot of people can hold on to. And it's just, you know, looking for that light. It's there. You just have to hang on and get through those years. We've all been through them. I was, you know, bullied myself and had a lot to deal with. We all have. So I love that. I think that's really inspirational. And now your story I find really interesting because, you know, I've read and I've heard you tell your story quite a bit that you left home young, I think around 15. Right. And, you know, for a while you've spoken about having a tough relationship with your family and kind of going through that chapter of your life and navigating what that relationship would look like for the future. And I know now that things have been pretty well and pretty good, if I can say. I'll let you speak more on that. But, you know, a lot of people also think, A, my family is going to turn against me and won't accept me. B, I have come out and I have a horrible relationship with my family and I have nobody to turn to in my life. What can you say for people dealing with that side of it with their family?
You know, families can be tough because, first of all, they're the people that are supposed to love you no matter what.
Right.
And so when you kind of feel that that isn't the case and you live in a small town where you can't really talk to anybody else, it can be really, really tough. You know, I knew that my parents weren't necessarily going to kick me out if I came out when I still lived at home, but it wouldn't have been good. There may have been some conversion therapy in there. You know, there wasn't going to be a lot of positive reactions, and I knew that, which is why I decided to actually leave before I came out. I wore a mask every day of my life. No one really knew who the real Bobby was except me. And that causes somebody to be really, really lonely, especially when you don't have the support of your family. You know, I've been lucky that my family and I have reconciled. Like, my parents love Dewey. My dad's like, oh, you know, you're so lucky to have Dewey. And, you know, my dad's like this 80-year-old cowboy. And so if my 80-year-old cowboy dad, who is like the epitome of like the all-American man, you know, can come around to like loving my husband and like calling him and chatting with him when I'm not even talking to me, you know, anybody can. They luckily not turned their back on religion. They still go to church, but they turned their back on the type of religion that was super judgmental, and kind of have taken religion a little more a la carte, you might say, instead of, you know, exactly what evangelicals preach. But if you aren't lucky enough to reconcile with your family, if you aren't lucky enough to have a family that eventually after a few years does come around, find your chosen family. You know, don't dwell and don't beat yourself up on the fact that your biological family won't accept you. That's their fault. That's their problem. That's their loss. And just because you guys share DNA and blood doesn't mean that they're really truly your family if they don't love and accept you for whoever you are. You know, I'm adopted. My parents aren't my flesh and blood, but they now love me for who I am and accept me for who I am. So if that means going out and finding, you know, your family, your chosen family that will love and support you, you will find those people.
I love that. And I totally agree. I have like a very big Italian family, and I was lucky. They were very supportive from day one. And when you think of the stereotypical Italian dad, you might think, oh, that's rare. And maybe it is, but my dad welcomed, you know, me with nothing but love. So I was lucky. I know that's not the case for everybody. Do you think it's safe to say it's okay to give family, even some close friends, a minute to get to a place where they are accepting? Like, don't write them off right away type of thing?
So a lot of times when we come out, we get outed, we expect our family to instantly accept it. And if they don't, oh, they're horrible, they don't love me. Yeah. Here's the thing. You've had your whole life to figure out who you are. you've had your whole life to figure out that you're gay or bi or trans or lesbian. They've had seconds. They've had minutes, even days, months. Maybe it takes a couple years, but you have to remember that you had your entire life to come to terms with that. They haven't. You do need to give them time. You do need to give them space if they need it. And hopefully, and more times not, they do come around. But you need to give them a moment to, and I hate to use this word, but a moment to mourn the person that they thought you were. Not that who you are is any better or any worse, but you know what, when it comes to parents, and especially a lot of misconceptions that parents have about gays, you know, even though not as much now, like, oh, I'm not gonna have grandkids, or oh, this, you know, you gotta give your parents a beat to kind of rework in their mind who they thought you were, who you are, and to learn to kind of wrap their head around that and be okay with it. So just because they don't react positively or super accepting right away, don't come for them. Give them their space, give them a beat, because if you come for them and that causes even more fights and even more of a wedge in between you, it's going to be even harder for them to accept you and even harder for your relationship to heal. So I know it might hurt in the beginning for them not to accept you and maybe even to reject you, but give them a beat and you'll definitely find that not creating more strife and more anger between the two of you will make it easier to reconcile and for them to come to terms with you.
I think that's going to help a lot of people out there. You know, you have these expectations sometimes, like, I'm gay, why can't everyone get on board with it? I don't understand, I just announced it, it's my life. But you have to give people a second to come to terms with their feelings as well, and hopefully they're for the best. So I love that, and props to your parents for loving the great man that you are. I love that. All right, now I want to talk about career a little bit. I think that what you've accomplished is extraordinary, and a lot of people just tend to focus sometimes on the shiny thing in the room, which right now might be Queer Eye and your furniture line, but they forget about all the hard work it took to get there. And you know, I've read a lot about you kind of starting at Restoration Hardware, or that was one of your first jobs, and then a little stint at Bed Bath & Beyond, and then you worked for an Italian linen company, I think.
Yeah.
And then you had a shop in Soho. So you've done so much, and that's a sliver of everything you've done. And my purpose for bringing that up is to share with everybody that no matter what field you're in, it's a journey and not just, you know, the marathon and the sprint to get there. So what do you say to people? Because there's a lot of young, aspiring everything watching right now. What do you say about focusing on where you are right now in that journey rather than getting frustrated and thinking, oh my God, I'm not where I want to be? You know, Bobby, I think we live in this culture where people want things right away. And with social media, we see that quite often. So I would love to hear from you, your advice to people to get, oh, good lighting, okay.
Yeah, it was getting a little dark over there in that corner.
I love it. So what's your advice for people to stay focused and the journey is okay? What do you say to them on that?
You know, I always think of life as you've got to focus on the long game. You know, it's not always about right here, right now. It's about your plans for the future. You know, with my brand, I used to have retail stores. And I had stores in New York, Atlanta, Miami, and LA. And I was kind of playing the long game. Like, that wasn't the career I wanted to end up in. I had worked retail for years before I owned my own retail. Retail wears you down. It can be very hard, you know, dealing with customers who think it's okay to be awful to a human being over a swipe. So it wasn't where I wanted to be, but I also knew that I needed to put in the hard work and years of having those retail stores in order to expand the brand, in order for me to be able to license it for my wallpaper and my art and my furniture. And also to, you know, expanding my brand and helping with the awareness also was one of the reasons why I got Queer Eye. So my advice is to enjoy the journey, but also think about the destination where you want to be. Think about, the job that you have right now may suck and may be hard and may be a pain in the ass, but what is putting that time in doing for your future? You know, is that just a step, you know, on the way to where you want to be? And even if it's hard, you need to, you know, not everyone can skip those steps, especially people that didn't come from anything. You know, you've got to put the work in, you've got to put the time in. So enjoy the journey, but also plan for the destination.
And as a follow-up, I see a lot of comments and people saying, you know, Tommy, I'm gay, and I feel like this is an obstacle for me in my career. It's going to prevent me from doing things. I've come in contact with people who have made it an issue when it shouldn't be. You know, I know for myself, I've spoken about how I've been given awful advice, such as keep your relationship private in media and don't, you know, focus so much on that side of you. And it's like, we have to be who we have to be at the end of the day. But what do you have to say for people who feel like they can't achieve their wildest dreams because they're gay?
Pete Buttigieg. You know, we just had a man run a super, super successful presidential campaign, like in the top 3, and he's gay, and he's married to a man. So, you know, did he get the nomination? Unfortunately not, but I think one day he will. And I think that we're going to see a lot of him. And I think that he is not only paving the way for many of us, but he's also showing the example that, you know, you can be successful and be what you want to be, even if you're gay, and you don't have to hide yourself. You can get up on stage in front of millions of people and kiss your husband next to all the other presidential candidates and really be true to yourself and who you are. So yes, it can be hard. And yes, depending on where you are, it can be an obstacle, but it is not the end all say all. You know, 20, 30 years ago, yeah, it was. But God, I mean, in media, it's almost trendy to be gay, it seems. You know, it's thank God for the original Fab Five on Queer Eye for the Straight Guy, because I think the 5 of them, us in media, we owe them so much, because they really paved the way for us, you know, actual gay people. You know, Will and Grace was on, but, you know, Sean Hayes wasn't out yet. I forget Will's real name, but he's not even gay, you know. So there were gay characters on television, but there was no actual real life gay person on television, like showing that you can be successful, you can be out, you can be proud, and the world will still accept you. So I don't know how I got on them, but yeah.
I love that. No, I think it's so true. It's something that I almost feel like it's our superpower, right? Because it makes us who we are and it adds to everything we do. And I just tell people there's nothing wrong with it, and stay true to who you are. And hopefully you don't encounter people who have an issue with it. And if you do, put them aside and still go for what you want to go for.
And you know, the people that are like, oh, well, don't make it that you're so much about that. And I agree and disagree with that. Like, I agree that you being gay shouldn't be at the forefront of who you are, like, especially if you're in media, because, you know, Susan over here next to me, the forefront of her isn't that she's straight. You know, I don't think that someone's sexuality should be at the forefront of really anything they do, because that doesn't define you. That's just, you know, part of who you are. Just like on Queer Eye, we always say that us being gay or queer, non-binary, that is just like a very small part of who we are. And it's like 10 things down on the list that we would want to describe ourselves for of being on Queer Eye. It's, you know, we're just 5 guys that are experts in our field who are trying to help people and trying to use our expertise to help them change their lives for the better. And just way down the list, yeah, we're all gay and non-binary too. You know, so yes, I agree when people are like, don't make it the forefront of who you are, because it's not all that you are. And to make it the forefront, then sometimes people that are a little less open-minded, that's all that they can see. And you don't want them to only see that, because again, it's just a small piece of who you are. There's so many other things.
Totally, 100%. Okay, I have some more fun questions. We're going to talk about love, but I want to answer a few that are coming in right now. And you had a lot of requests. If you can show the room you're in, because it looks gorgeous.
Oh,
there we go. Is this your bedroom?
There we go.
Oh, I want to be in that pool right now.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Classy, sleek. I love it.
Thank you.
So the Wi-Fi, I think the Wi-Fi is getting a little choppy in this location. Can you see me okay?
Yeah, I can see you just fine.
All right, you're a little pixelated, but
the Wi-Fi is not great here.
hopefully we'll come back. All right, so let's talk about love for a minute. You are a married man, and you've been married for how many years?
We've been together for 16. Married for... And you're frozen.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, there you are.
Cool. Yeah, I'm married. We'll be married 4 years, together 5 years. So it's fun to be part of the married club. But my question to you is, did you always see marriage in your future, even as a young gay kid living in Missouri? Is it something you thought about? Is it something you wanted? And how does being married today have an impact on you? You know, in a time when we weren't always allowed to be married, how do you view marriage in general?
It definitely wasn't something that I thought about as a kid because I just didn't think it would ever be an option.
Right.
You know, it wasn't until 2012, 2013. I think 2012 in New York, 2013 nationally. So no, it was something I never even expected would happen for me. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you met your partner, Dewey, did you know right away?
No, I wasn't looking for anyone right away. I had, gotten out of a relationship not too long before that. I was, 21 years old, 21, 22, living in New York City. Like, I was not looking for a serious relationship at all, but he came over one night and still hasn't left.
I love that. I think it's really cool. I think no matter, people choose to get married or not, it's their prerogative, but I love, I never had an image of that growing up. And I never thought, too, that I'd be married or wanted to get married because I just thought, well, I'm gay, I'll be single forever. But it's nice that there's people out there who have these beautiful relationships. I love when you guys post cute, fun stuff behind the scenes, and it's awesome. It's really cool. Cool. So now, a question for you. What do you think something that the community needs to work on is? What I mean by that is, what do we need to come together on? For me, I see sometimes the meanest things that are being said to people are from people in the LGBTQ space to other people in the space. And it blows my mind that we are supposed to be a group so focused on lifting one another up and cheering on each other's successes. And I see such hatred sometimes between one another.
We are so quick to tear each other down. And to be honest, like when we were filming the very first season of Queer Eye and like the show hadn't been out yet, we were most terrified by what our own community would say about the show and would say about us. And we knew that out of everyone, they were going to be the ones that came for us the most, that had the most negative things to say, just because it always seems to be the case. We always try to pull each other down for some reason instead of lifting each other up. And that's one of the things we try so hard to fight against on the show. We try not to be catty. We try not to use the humor that's tearing each other down just to be funny. We always try to build each other up and set the example that, you don't have to be, there's enough success in the world for all of us. We believe in the law of abundance. And I think that might be kind of where some of the negativity comes from is, in the past, there's been such a small space for gays to be successful that there's a huge jealousy factor there. Like if you see this gay person and they're being super successful, your first gut reaction is to tear them down because you're jealous. And it makes yourself feel better about their success if you pick them apart and they're like, they're not that successful, blah, 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 It's kind of like making yourself feel better. But I've really tried to train my mind into when I end up doing that, and when I end up making that joke at the expense of someone else, where a lot of people think it's funny, I'll then instantly feel horrible. And I've tried to train myself to feel guilt on that, to feel disgust and correct myself and actually apologize for it, take the joke back and be like, you know what, that was mean. Let me think of another way to be funny without it being at the expense of one of my LGBTQ brothers or sisters, or anyone for that matter. you know? We really need to get away from the hateful humor. It's not funny.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you. And I always say, how do you expect people who maybe don't quite understand the community yet or have issues with it still, how do you expect them to come to a place of acceptance when people within our own groups are still spewing so much hatred, right? So I'm 100% with you, and I love that the show does.
I even actually, I don't even know if I should say this. I find myself being way more on guard when I'm being interviewed by a gay publication than I do a mainstream one. I'm more guarded with what I say because I've learned that the gay publications will come for us way quicker and sometimes mix our words and twist our words around, because I think a lot of mainstream media is kind of terrified to do so. They're like, we can't come for the queer eye guys, or we can't come for a gay person. You know, people will scream homophobia, but you know, a gay publication, they can without, you know, people screaming homophobia. And I think sometimes they take that too far.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's funny, when we got married, People Magazine did a little story on it, and the meanest comments I saw out there were from people who were gay, and you know, saying really outrageous things, even wishing us an unsuccessful marriage. And you know, it wasn't the straight community who were being mean, aside from the casual, like it's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve comment.
But like, can you come up with some original material, people?
I know. I'm like, come on, we've heard that one. But I'm with you. I think a good hope, to paraphrase all of that for you and for us, is to see just a more supportive, truly inclusive community.
Yeah. You know, again, believe in the law of abundance. You don't need to be jealous and be angry and say mean things about your guy's wedding because you're not having one. You will. You know, believe in the law of abundance, support and be positive, and people in return will do the same thing to you. Could you imagine if people just did nothing but be nice to each other and build each other up? Like, could you imagine how many, you know, because a lot of times I find that people that they get really fucked up as adults, you know, and not, this is really dramatic way to go, but like turn into serial killers, are the ones who were mentally just abused and torn apart and beaten down. And like, if we would just stop doing that, not only on that level, but even on the smallest level, if we just every day try to build 3 people up instead of tearing them down, the world would change so quickly.
I'm with you. I think maybe you have a presidential ticket in your future. Bobby for president.
Never know.
Let me ask you, so what does visibility mean to you?
You know, visibility to me means increasing acceptance. You know, a lot of times, actually, Netflix has a podcast called Because I Watched. And they had me read one of the episodes. It's basically viewers who have watched shows, whether it be The Crown or Glow, you know, Netflix original shows, where watching that show has had a major effect on their life. You can write in, and if your story is picked, they actually will have somebody from that show read your story. And so they had me read a story from a wonderful young lady in Venezuela who was super, super close to her dad growing up. But her dad died when she was at a young age, maybe 12 or so. And she instantly had to start trying to be close to her mother, which her and her mother were never really close. She was always a daddy's girl. So even with her father dying, her mother and her still didn't become close. They never saw eye to eye. And they were at I believe a quinceañera, I think when she was like 12 or 13, and there was this boy there. I can't remember any of their names, but let's for help's sake, Rodrigo. And Rodrigo was there, and she saw Rodrigo dancing in like his pink suit and sparkly shoes. And she was like, oh my God, this Rodrigo boy is amazing. And she's like, I want to be friends with him. So she went over and started dancing with him, and they instantly became friends. Like all the girls were surrounding him. She's like, my God, this Rodrigo, like all the girls are obsessed with him. And her mother made the comment, I don't like this Rodrigo boy, he's weird. And at the time, she didn't understand what her mother meant by weird. She thought Rodrigo was really cool. And so fast forward years later, she goes to, I think she moves to Mexico City for school, and she meets a boy and she brings him home, and they start talking about somehow gay adoption came up. And instantly her mom's like, no, that's weird. And kind of a light bulb came on, and she's like, oh, my mother's version of no, they're gay is weird. And that's a negative thing to her. Because she had since realized, years later that Rodrigo was gay. And so they started talking about gays being able to adopt, and her mom was like, I don't think gays should be able to adopt. It's completely unnatural. And she's like, the daughter said, with all the homeless issues in the world and homeless children, don't you think it would be better for a kid to be in a loving home than be homeless? And her mom said, I think it would be better for a child to live on the streets than to be raised by gay people. And that kind of tore them apart even more. And the one thing, though, that her and her mom always did together was they would watch makeover shows, like What Not to Wear, and they loved makeover reality shows. So I believe the girl's name is Veronica. So Veronica discovered Queer Eye and started watching Queer Eye and really wanted to share it with her mother, but she knew her mother wouldn't like it, wouldn't accept it because there were gays on it. But finally one day, she was like, Mom, you need to watch this show, Queer Eye. It's a makeover show, and she really tried to play down the fact that there were 5 gay people on it. Never heard from her mom about it for months. And then finally one day, her mom messages her and said, I watched Queer Eye. I just watched 3 seasons in a row. It's amazing. I love it so much. These guys are so nice. They help people so much. And she's like, it really made me realize that gays would make great parents. They're so loving and accepting, and they're so there for all these people that are having so much heartache and pain. And she's like, gays would actually make amazing parents. And so going back to visibility, being out there, being visible, being proud, and showing people that we are just like anyone else. Veronica's mother, the only concept she had of gay people was what the Catholic Church had told her in Venezuela, which was they were bad, they were pedophiles, gays are horrible, horrible, evil people that are going to hell. And that's it. She had never experienced a gay person for herself. She had never met a gay person that she knew of, except for poor weird Rodrigo. And so us being visible, us putting ourselves out there changed her mind. And her daughter says now it's much able to breach other subjects with her mom that she's never been able to talk about before. Like abortion, for example, a woman's right to choose. Her and her mom have been able to now talk about that and discuss it and have really good conversations that they weren't able to have before because of visibility. So yes, visibility is very important because you never really know how being out there and just being yourself and being normal can completely change someone's entire life and their entire way of thinking. I'm multiple heroes on Queer Eye. There's a few of them that are like, I've never met a gay person before, but they have, they just didn't know. But they just have in their mind what a gay person is. And a lot of time it's based on really bad religious points of views that are all negative and all judgmental. So yeah, being out there, being queer, being proud, and showing people that we're just like everyone else goes a long, long way in changing hearts and minds.
Did you ever have any idea that this show would have such an important part in doing just that?
No, no, especially going into this, the show that Queer Eye is, like, that's not the show we went to make. Like, we all knew the original Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. But it's a very different show, though, and not that our show is better or worse, but it's a different show. It's a different time. That time it was funny to be the gay designer and hairstylist, and that was really the only way the world could accept gays at the time. If we stood in our lane and we were that stereotype, they didn't accept us as husbands and fathers and people in real life. So when we went into it, we went in thinking we were making the show just like it was before. And the original producers are part of it, and they were had a very clear direction of where they wanted the show, which was pretty much the same format as before. And that's not knocking them. They had an Emmy-winning, very successful format. Why would they change it? But the very first episode, which was Tom, we were told, go in there and pick the apartment apart and tear it apart and find all the things that are wrong with it and find all the things that are wrong with him and his wardrobe and his food and his skin and his hair and just point all that out. And we got in there and we just saw this sad, depressed, lonely man, and we're like, no, we can't do that. God, we're all pretty caring people. And so we instantly instead just automatically started building him up and trying to find all the positive things about him. And we instantly saw a transformation in his eyes and the way he carried himself and the way he spoke about himself. And we're like, actually, no, this is the show. This is what we're going to do because this is what the world needs right now. We started filming in the beginning of 2017, just like 5-6 months after, November 2016. And we found that the world has just been tearing each other apart. There's no middle ground anymore. You're either Democrat or Republican or labor union or worker union. And, there's nobody just being people. It's all politics. So we really wanted to show people that no matter who you are, no matter where you're from, no matter what your point of view is, no matter if you're literally the daughter of a founding member of a church and I'm in there building a community center, we can all find common ground and we can all learn to love each other as humans and stop labeling each other with sexual orientation and politics and everything else and just focus on if they're a good person.
And I love that. I love that you guys aren't salacious. You're not looking for, crazy knee-jerk reactions from people in terms of having them be thrown off guard because you said something really mean or shocking or distasteful. Like, I'm a 34-year-old gay man. That's not how I go about my life. When I go do all my different shows and segments, I approach it exactly like how you said. I want to better somebody's life. I don't want to rip them apart. And the fact that you guys are all doing that speaks volumes to your character and who you are as people, and I commend all of you for that.
Thank you.
Truly. We had a great question that somebody's been asking a bunch, so let me get this one out. They wanted to know, and I'm sorry your name went by too quickly for me to read your name, but they said, how have you changed from season 1 to now the most?
My hair, probably. It's natural now. It was quite blonde. If you notice season 1 and a little bit into season 2, it was like all pastel colors and bright blonde hair and very preppy. The producers had a very specific idea of the way they wanted me to look.
Okay.
And I honestly think it was kind of like, oh, he's the blonde, so he needs to dress like Carson dressed. And that's kind of what was forced upon me in the beginning, like very loud, very colorful clothes like Carson used to wear back then. Still does now. And that's not me at all. Like my hair darker naturally, I wear a lot of black. So it was about midway through season 2 where I was like, all right, you guys can't fire me now. I'm not wearing this anymore. So I think being more true to myself has changed. I would also say I probably value my alone time more now. I didn't used to be able to be real good at just like being alone at home, and now sometimes I love it. I appreciate the time with my husband a whole lot more. But how I've changed, I really don't think I've changed a lot. And I can really say that because like most of my friends have all been my friends for like 20 years. And even they're like, you haven't changed. I've worked very, very hard at not letting any of this kind of change who I am.
I love that. We also had, if you weren't doing what you're doing now, what career or industry would you want to be in?
I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a lawyer, and I also wanted to be a singer, and I'm still working on the singer part. But
Yeah, can you carry a tune?
I can. I have a few songs out on Spotify.
I need to check that out.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
I've done a few duets with some friends on Spotify. One with Alyssa Cahill, it's called Love Is, and another one with Brazilian singer Tiago, and it's called Everybody.
All right, excuse me, Mr. American Idol. I love
Too
that.
old for American Idol.
Oh, I don't know. And then we have another great question. What are you currently watching and reading right now?
I am currently, honestly, I'm not watching a whole lot of anything. There's nothing left to watch. I'm already bored not even a week into this. What am I watching right now? I mean, Schitt's Creek. I think a new one last night, so I'll be watching that tonight. Dan Levy and Eugene are just brilliant. And Emily Hampshire is one of my best friends, and who plays Stevie, and she's just insane in so many ways. Insane talented. It's funny watching it now because the character she plays, Stevie, is so different than who Emily is as a person, and it just speaks volumes to her talent as an actress that every time I watch it, like, I have friends on a lot of shows, and when I watch the show, all I can see is them.
Yeah.
But when I watch Stevie, I'm like, I don't know you. Like, you look like my friend, but you're not. Like, there's nothing of her. Like, she's just such an amazing actress. So Schitt's Creek. What else am I watching right now? I just started Little Fires Everywhere last night with Reese Witherspoon and Kerry Washington. Jury's still out.
I haven't checked it out yet.
Often first episodes are always a little slow because they're just setting the story up and setting history up. I can't imagine anything with Reese and Kerry in it, though, not being amazing. So the first episode was good. But I'm sure the other ones are going to be even better because the first one, again, was definitely, you could tell it was setting up a lot of backstory. The Morning Show, if anybody hasn't watched that with Reese, was absolutely amazing. It's been a long time since there's been a show that I end up staying up till 3 or 4 in the morning because every time one's over, I'm like, just one more. Just one more. God, I was up till late last night watching something as well. I don't remember what it was.
We're starting. My husband's never seen Sex and the City. I know.
What?
So I have something on it right now. We just did season 1, and he's hooked.
I started watching Shameless last night. I've watched all the seasons except I realized that I'm a season and a half behind. So it was a very pleasant surprise that a show that I love had a season and a half left. Altered Carbon. I'm a big sci-fi fan, if you haven't figured that out.
Horror and sci-fi, or just sci-fi?
What's that?
Horror and sci-fi, or just sci-fi?
Just sci-fi. I'm not a huge horror fan. Lost in Space is amazing. My friend Mina Sudwell and Ignacio is on that. War of the Worlds on Epix I started watching recently, and it's good. And what else? I think that's it right now.
All right, it's a good list.
Yeah. Reading, I just ordered these. I haven't even started them yet. They're sci-fi. Nathan Heistad. Yeah. So we'll see how those go. I just ordered a bunch of books from Michael Crichton. He was my favorite author growing up. And there's a few I didn't read. He wrote Jurassic Park.
So my husband's obsessed with Jurassic Park. We went to Kauai just to see, like, everywhere they filmed the movie. Now we go every year.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And then there is, just a second. If you love sci-fi, there is, just a second, but I always cover up the camera when I'm trying to open it. There is there's an author named Dennis E. Taylor, and it's a series of books. The first one is called We Are Legend, We Are Bob. It's a weird name, but it's great. The second one is For We Are Many, The next one is All the World, and I think there's a fourth one coming out. It's so good. I got it on audio, and I would be listening to it on the way to work, and I'd find myself getting to the parking lot at work and then realizing I had been sitting in the parking lot for an hour listening to the audiobook. If you like sci-fi, it's really, really good.
Okay. Gonna have to check that one out. A lot of people wanted recommendations. I love it. And we had another really great question. In 10 years, where does Bobby see himself?
10? Oh God, that's so long.
Tough question.
Doing a studio show where I get to go to the same set every day and get to have a set schedule and living in Santa Barbara with 2 kids.
I love it.
Yeah.
Pretty beautiful. And any last words on things coming up? Anything you want to quickly plug? Anything furniture-wise?
Not really. Just everyone stay safe, stay at home if you can, wash your hands constantly. You know, I know it's kind of the only thing anybody is talking about right now, but I almost feel like plugging anything else is a little insensitive at the moment when we all need to just be thinking about taking care of each other and ourselves. You know, the sooner we do that, the sooner this will be over and under control. So yeah, just be less selfish.
And stay inside, right?
Yeah. You know, you might not be sick, you might not know you're sick, but you never know who you could get sick. So just take care of yourself, take care of everyone around you.
And last question, tying this back to the GLAAD Awards that have not happened, sadly, are not happening right now. What would you say to somebody on how to always remain true to themselves in the community and not be afraid of showing who they really are?
I would say if you look at the most successful people in LGBTQ community or anywhere for that matter, especially in entertainment, it's the people that are absolutely true to themselves and are absolutely unique and quote unquote weird and different that are super successful right now. You know, look at Lizzo. It was not popular to sing positive, reaffirming music, you know, body positivity, you know, women supporting. That was not popular. That song had been out for 3 years before one day it finally just exploded. She's been out there singing in clubs and bars for, you know, chili cheese fries for years. And she stayed true to herself. And finally the world was like, oh man, shit. Body positivity is great. Supporting each other is great. Not beating each other down is great. This is great music. So stay true to yourself. You know, just because people don't see it and appreciate it right now, if you really do stay true to yourself, eventually people are going to get bored with everything that's just the same. And you're going to stand out even more and have even more success because you're that different one.
I love that. Couldn't it be a better note to go out on? Bobby, thank you for joining.
Thank you, Simon.
You have a lot of inspiration out there. I hope you stay healthy and safe. And we look forward to following along your career.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, everybody.
Be well. Bye.